Now let's discuss about Cushing syndrome. This is a very important topic from NEET PG perspective. So what is this Cushing syndrome? It is nothing but a constellation of clinical features. Constellation of clinical features which occurs due to chronic exposure to glucocorticoids. The problem is chronic exposure to glucocorticoids. This could be of any etiology. The etiology could be a wide spectrum of diseases. Either the problem could be in the pituitary, or the problem could be in the adrenals, or the problems could be the drugs which the patients are taking. So irrespective of the etiology, these patients are exposed to a high level of steroids for a longer period of time. So Cushing syndrome just means the group of clinical features which arises out of this unwarranted or increased exposure of glucocorticoids. Now let's discuss what is the basic difference between Cushing syndrome and Cushing's disease. As I explained in the previous slide, Cushing syndrome is nothing but the constellation of symptoms due to exposure of glucocorticoids, but it is of any etiology. There is no specific etiology for Cushing syndrome. It is any etiology. But Cushing's disease is something different. It is more specific term. This says that if the Cushing syndrome arises due to a pituitary disease, then it is called as Cushing's disease. So this is non-specific. This is specific due to a pituitary disease, probably a pituitary adenoma in fact. And regarding the epidemiology, usually the females have higher preponderance of Cushing syndrome. So usually the females have high ratio, but prepubertal males have high ratio or boys have high ratio. So after the age of 20, it is the females who are dominating the ratio. However, before 20 years of age, it is the boys who are dominating the ratio. So what are the causes of Cushing syndrome? The causes of Cushing syndrome can be broadly classified into two. One is ACTH dependent, another is ACTH independent. So we will broadly classify them into ACTH dependent Cushing and ACTH independent. So in ACTH dependent Cushing, the most important is the ACTH producing pituitary adenoma. And the second is ectopic ACTH. So this is from the feedback loop. This is completely away from the feedback loop. Ectopic ACTH secretion. This could be due to any malignancies which produces ectopic ACTH, like oat cell carcinoma or small cell carcinoma of the lung, sometimes carcinoids, pheochromocytoma, etc. So with respect to the ACTH independent Cushing's, the first is adrenocortical adenoma. The adrenal itself produces more amount of steroids. The second is this adenoma could get transformed into a carcinoma. So it is adrenocortical carcinoma. So these are the commonest causes. Now we will discuss about the clinical features of Cushing syndrome. We will split it into topics. First we will discuss about the body fat, which is very important. In the body fat, the typical appearance will be characteristic. Patient will be obese and there will be central obesity. There will be a big belly. The face will be round, puffy due to excess accumulation of fat in the face. This is called as moon face. There will be a hump which is at the back. This is called buffalo hump. This is just fat accumulation over the back. So the face itself is characteristic for Cushing syndrome. And regarding the body fat, the first is weight gain. central obesity, rounded or moon face, buffalo hump is nothing but a pad of fat on the back behind the shoulders. That's it. And with the skin, the characteristic is the purple striae or violaceous striae. This is very characteristic feature of Cushing syndrome. Second is facial plethora. Third is easy bruising. And fourth is acne. Fifth is hirsutism. So these are the skin features in patients with Cushing syndrome. Next comes the bone features. The bone features, the most common is osteopenia, osteoporosis, pathological fractures due to bone weakening, and muscles. Steroids usually cause type 2 fiber atrophy in the muscle. So it usually causes proximal weakness. What is this proximal weakness? The muscles of thigh and arm are affected. These are the proximal muscles. They are affected more. As a result, these patients will have difficulty in bringing the hands up or difficulty in climbing, which is very characteristic, or difficulty in squatting also, because these are clinical features of proximal muscle weakness. Next is about the cardiovascular system. These patients have hypertension, which is very characteristic. And second, these patients might have edema and exaggerated atherosclerosis, which is very characteristic. And about the general metabolism, due to increased glucocorticoids, there will be predominant hyperglycemia. And diabetes mellitus is more common in these patients. And dyslipidemia is also more common. So diabetes mellitus and dyslipidemia are common in these patients. Reproductive system. There is decrease in libido. Females present with amenorrhea, or sometimes the gonadotropin release gets reduced. Regarding the central nervous system, you know that steroid initiation itself causes psychosis in many cases. So these patients are exposed to steroids for a hell lot of time. So these patients are more prone to get this psychosis. They could get depressed. Sometimes there could be cognitive defects, psychosis, and emotional liability. These are characteristic CNS features. Apart from this, there are general clinical features like more infections as the immunity gets reduced. There will be a hypercoagulable state, and the risks of DVT and pulmonary embolism is increased multifolds with Cushing syndrome. So these are the clinical features of Cushing syndrome in crux. We know that hypertension is a characteristic feature in Cushing syndrome, but is it systolic or diastolic? That brings us to one of the answers for our common NEAT-PG question. It is first the diastolic hypertension, which is more common in Cushing syndrome. Thyroid function is depressed because the hypothalamo-pituitary thyroid axis is also suppressed, so there will be decrease in TSH. And hyperpigmentation. If it is a ACTH producing tumor or ACTH dependent Cushing syndrome, even if it's a ectopic ACTH secreting tumor, when the ACTH levels in the body increase, this ACTH will not stay idle. It will also go and stimulate the melanin receptors. leading to hyperpigmentation. Next is a common question which is asked in NEET PG about pseudo-Cushing syndrome. What is the pseudo-Cushing syndrome? These patients look exactly like the patients with Cushing syndrome, but steroid levels are not altered in these patients and there is no excess steroids in these patients. So who are those patients? These patients are no one else except the chronic alcoholics, where the clinical features will be identical to patients with Cushing syndrome. So it is seen in chronic alcoholism. This is a very important MCQ. Now let's come to the diagnostic aspects of Cushing syndrome, where many questions are asked frequently. The first and the foremost thing to diagnose a patient with Cushing syndrome is to take a deep history. Most of them hide the history of secondary glucocorticoid intake. Probably they might be having rheumatoid arthritis or any autoimmune diseases, in fact, or they would be taking steroids for backache due to counter medications. So you should be very clear in proving the history and taking things out. History plays a very important role to rule out exogenous steroid intake. So first thing is you rule out by taking a proper history. Next, you screen the patient for Cushing syndrome. What are the screening tests available? The most specific test is midnight salivary cortisol. You can check a salivary cortisol in the morning or the afternoon. Why we should check salivary cortisol in the midnight? This is because in the midnight, the steroid levels will be very, very low. If a patient has higher steroid levels in the midnight, then it means then the patient really has very high levels, because at the midnight it should be the lowest. Instead, in the midnight itself, the patient is having higher steroid levels. It means then the patient is having too much of glucocorticoids in the body throughout the day. So, if salivary cortisol in the midnight is very high, it is suspicious of Cushing syndrome. But this test is not available everywhere. So what we can do is we can check for 24-hour urine free cortisol. You would be wondering, why just check serum cortisol itself? But as I have discussed in the previous slides also, serum cortisol is not secreted in a basal way. It is secreted in a pulsatile way. At any one point of time, it could peak. At any one point of time, it could come down also. There is individual variation with serum cortisol also between individuals. As a result, there will not be any particular normal value for serum cortisol which is accepted to rule out Cushing syndrome. So, it is better to suppress the serum cortisol level by giving steroids and then check to rule out Cushing syndrome. So the commonest screening test we often adopt is ON dexamethasone suppress test. This is also called overnight dexamethasone suppression test. By the mnemonic ON, it means that 1 milligram of dexamethasone is given to the patient at 11 p.m. in the night, and serum cortisol levels are checked at 8 to 9 p.m. If serum cortisol level is suppressed, then it means the patient doesn't have Cushing's, or we can virtually rule out Cushing's to a higher extent. But if the patient's glucocorticoid or patient's serum cortisol is not suppressed at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning, then it means that the patient has so much of glucocorticoids which could not be suppressed, arising a strong suspicion of Cushing syndrome. So these are the screening tests for Cushing syndrome. The most specific is midnight salivary cortisol, which is not available at many places. So 24-hour urine free cortisol can be checked, and overnight dexamethasone suppression test could be done for these patients. Next, we will understand how to evaluate the patient with Cushing syndrome. So most of these patients will be presenting with clinical features or strong suspicion. With a history, you rule out exogenous cortisol intake. Then you do screening test. You do 24-hour urine free cortisol, or you will be doing midnight salivary cortisol, or you will be doing overnight dexamethasone suppression test. As I told you in the previous slide, overnight dexamethasone suppression test involves giving 1 milligram of dexamethasone at 11 o'clock in the night, and then checking serum cortisol levels at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. the next morning. If serum cortisol levels are suppressed, if it is serum cortisol levels, if it is less than 50 nanomole per liter, then you can virtually rule out Cushing syndrome. But if serum cortisol levels are more than 50 nanomole per liter, then you have to proceed to confirmatory tests. The next step of confirmation test is to do a low dose dexamethasone suppression test. What is this low dose dexamethasone suppression test? It also involves giving dexamethasone at night. 0.5 milligram of dexamethasone every 6 hourly for 2 days are given, and after 2 days, 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, serum cortisol levels are checked. If serum cortisol is suppressed, then we can virtually rule out Cushing. If serum cortisol levels are still increased more than 50 nanomoles per liter, then it is strongly favoring Cushing syndrome, and we would have confirmed this Cushing syndrome. After confirming Cushing syndrome, we have to find out what is the cause for this Cushing syndrome, or what is the cause for this much amount of steroid excess. For that, first you have to find out whether it is ACTH dependent or ACTH independent. You check a plasma ACTH value. If this plasma ACTH value is more than 15 picogram per ml, then it is ACTH dependent. If it is less than 5 picogram per ml, then it is ACTH independent. So with this, we will be able to evaluate better. You can easily find out whether this is a ACTH dependent Cushing or ACTH independent Cushing with just plasma ACTH values alone. If it is a ACTH dependent Cushing, you have to find out whether this ACTH is coming from the feedback loop or away from the feedback loop. These are ectopic ACTH secretion. To find this out, we will do high dose dexamethasone suppression test. It involves giving 2 mg of dexamethasone every 6 hourly for 2 days, and then repeating serum cortisol levels. If it is suppressed, then it means that it is arising from the feedback loop, as high dose of dexamethasone has suppressed the release of cortisol. But if it is not suppressed, then it means it is arising from ectopic foci. This ectopic foci could be in the adrenals or any organs. So you are supposed to take the CT or MRI of the preferred organ. If the high dose dexamethasone suppression test indicates that it is arising from the feedback loop, then do a MRI. Check the pituitary. If this MRI is inconclusive, you can do a inferior petrosal sinus sampling for ACTH. So it is very simple. If you are thinking in terms of our ACTH dependent Cushing syndrome, then there are two possibilities. Either it could be from the loop or away from the loop. And regarding from the loop, if you give high dose of dexamethasone, it will definitely suppress it. So you can clearly say that it is arising either from the hypothalamus or pituitary or somewhere centrally. So you will be doing an MRI to find it out and rule it out. If you don't get clues in the MRI, you can do inferior petrosal sinus sampling, but with the help of an endocrinologist, and you can assess the serum ACTH levels there. However, if the feedback mechanism is not there and high dose dexamethasone is not suppressing this ectopic ACTH production, then you have to virtually rule out every organ. For example, an ectopic ACTH production could arise from a tumor in the lung. So you are supposed to take CT of the lung and then rule out. ACTH independent Cushing syndrome, they could arise mostly from the adrenals. So it is advised to do a CT of the adrenal and then rule things out. I have simplified the entire evaluation of Cushing syndrome. For detailed workup, we will discuss things in later videos. So let me just brief it. First, you take a proper history, then you screen. In the screening test, if you have a strong suspicion of Cushing syndrome, you first do the low dose dexamethasone suppression test to confirm. If you have confirmed with the low dose dexamethasone suppression test, you will find out whether this is a ACTH dependent or ACTH independent. If it is ACTH dependent, then either it could be an ectopic ACTH production or a centrally ACTH secreting problem. So this central problem is respond to feedback loop. The ectopic will not respond to feedback loop. If it is a central problem, by using this feedback loop of giving high dose dexamethasone, you can suppress it. However, you cannot suppress an ectopic ACTH secretion. If the suppression is possible, then you evaluate for pituitary and hypothalamus. If the suppression is not at all possible, then you evaluate for each and every organ which is highly prone to produce ectopic ACTH. However, if it is not at all related to ACTH, if it is an ACTH independent thing, then a N component steroid should be produced. Then you check the adrenals very closely with a CT. So this briefs up the evaluation of Cushing syndrome. Next, we will discuss about the treatment of Cushing syndrome. The treatment is predominantly surgical, as the most common cause of Cushing syndrome, which is the Cushing disease, is a pituitary adenoma, and predominantly the treatment is surgical. Regarding the medical managements, there are quite a few drugs which reduces the steroid synthesis. Metropone, ketoconazole, and mitoten. Mitoten even causes medical adrenalectomy. Medical adrenalectomy. This is a very important MCQ. Ketoconazole reduces steroid synthesis and it is widely used in the treatment of Cushing syndrome. So the treatment is quite simple. With the history, if the patient is taking exogenous steroids, you try to speak to the patient and reduce and taper and stop the drugs. If it is due to an ACTH producing tumor, you do surgery. If you are not able to find out any cause, or if you want to suppress this steroid synthesis for a certain period of time, you can go ahead with medical management such as metropone, ketoconazole, and mitoten. And if you are thinking of doing a medical adrenalectomy, then mitoten is the drug of choice because it destroys the adrenals. So let's see few MCQs. Pseudo-Cushing syndrome is seen in Conn syndrome, pheochromocytoma, alcoholism, and all of the above. The answer is alcoholism. We have discussed it in the previous slides. Low dose dexamethasone suppression test is used in the treatment of Addison's disease, Cushing's disease, Wilson's disease, and hemochromatosis. Suppression tests in endocrinology are used for syndromes or diseases with excessive production of the hormones. So suppression test is used for diseases with excess production of hormones. Whereas stimulation tests is used for diseases where there is loss or decreased secretion of hormones. Here they have asked a question about a suppression test. So which of the diseases have increased production of hormones? This is nowhere related to hormones. This is not related to hormones to a major extent. The basic pathology. Cushing's disease has increased secretion of glucocorticoids. Addison's disease has decreased secretion of glucocorticoids as well as mineralocorticoids. So even if you don't know the answer, a suppression test would be ideal for a disease which has more hormones. So you can guess it to be Cushing syndrome. So these are the ways which you can use the common sense and apply for MCQs with the proper answer. Thank you.